What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We are inside a shop that we're finishing, and I thought, you know what, let's make a small video that's dedicated just to how we trim out and finish the inside of a window. So let's get into it. All right, so the first thing that I need to do is I need to get my measurements for the depth, because we've got to build a jamb extension here, and we used to do this with a metal. Never really liked it, and we've moved on to a PVC trim, which you'll see, which I really love the look of. Gives it a real nice custom appearance. So when I know my depth of jamb here, which I'm looking at like 8 and 7/16. Side note, it's always okay if when you do these dimensions, if one of them or a couple of them are bigger than the other ones, that's okay. Go with the bigger measurement, you know, because wood can be weird sometimes. So I like to just double check all my sides. See, like this one's like 8 3/8, and the other ones are 8 and 7/16. So we'll go ahead with 8 and 7/16. And you obviously need to know your width and your height, which I made all these boxes, Greg and I, so I know they should be 3x4 rough opening size. Let me show you the product we're gonna use for this trim. And basically by the end of this video, guys, you will see the whole process, the jamb extensions, the J channel, the steel around it, and we'll have a nice finished window. So let's go. Okay, so this is the material I'm using for my jamb extension. I've already cut a couple up, and what you'll notice is this comes either as a wood grain or a smooth finish. Now, I personally like the look of the wood grain, but it's not great for jamb extensions because we are in a shop and there could be some dust and dirt that accumulates on flat surfaces, and it doesn't clean off as nice and neat as smooth. So this is the side we're gonna use, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut my tops and bottoms first. These don't need to be as precise because of the way we install. So instead of going exactly 4 foot, I'm gonna cut them down about 1/8 shy. And the one thing that you will notice about this material, probably just listening to the saw work, is how effortless it cuts. Super clean cut. Worst part about it is all the dust, because it's not sawdust, it's PVC dust. So it does stick a little bit more and make things white, but it's not a big deal. Okay, so here's my top and bottom, and I've actually already cut a couple of the sides. So we're gonna go ahead and rip these down and get the correct dimension for the depth. All right, so we are 8 and 7/16 for my dimension here. And so I've got these lower 3 windows are new windows. So I've already ripped the top windows. Greg is actually installing those trims right now, but they were different windows. So they're slightly a different depth, but I try to do all the work at once. Okay. Just to be safe, before I rip all of them, I'm gonna double check that I like this on one of the windows for my depth. All right, so you can see here, this is fairly close to flush. Over here, it's maybe proud just a little bit, but that's okay, because when we put our J channel on here, it'll be perfect. This 2x is a little bit smaller. That's okay. This method, we can overcome this. It's gonna look great. So I'm gonna go ahead and stay with this dimension, and we'll go ahead and get the rest of these ripped, and then we'll do the install. All right, so I've got my pieces cut, and I figured this is a good time to talk about why are we using a white PVC, because it's expensive. My opinion is, when I look at the total cost of the window, the PVC might be a material price point heavier than like doing an aluminum, wrap, or even a wood and painting it. My time is probably, like my labor is probably more expensive to a client, and the amount of savings by using this product. I mean, I literally cut it. It cuts smooth, it cuts easy, it's consistent. And when I put these in, you'll see just how much it cleans up this opening and how quickly it installs. Hopefully I cut them right. Oh. Beautiful. Okay, shouldn't be using my fist, I know. Should be using a block or something, but that's how easy it goes in. Now, I will say that part of this process starts at the window install, making accurate dimensional frames, putting the window in and making sure that everything is level plumb and that you are spaced appropriately. That way, when we look around our window, everything looks really nice. Now, the other thing is this is PVC. It can have movement, but with these super small pieces, it's not really something that I worry about. So now that I have these here, this is how we're gonna fasten them. These are the Fasten Master Cortex system, and it's made specifically for these Westlake Royal PVC trims. And these plugs, if you haven't seen these, wait till you see this. This thing is pretty darn sweet. So it comes with a special bit, and you can see this bit has like a foam. So this is a piece of foam. I'll show you how this works. The screw has a thread to go in, but then it has a reverse thread at the top. So watch what happens here. Whenever I do this, I always use the center of the window and the center of the window as my screwing points. So we're just gonna go ahead and make sure we're snug. Okay, so it drove it in, overdrove it, and then it stops. And it stops based on the compression of this guy, and that's what protects us. And then we've got these plugs, and these plugs are from the same material as the trim, smooth. This is just gonna go right in there. I should have used a nice piece of material scrap just to hit that in, but these things are awesome. Because if you ever do need to remove these, you just take a screw right into your plug, and it will pull out. So what I'm going to do is make sure everything is nice and tight. I'm gonna go around and I'm gonna hit basically 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Just a bunch of screws here to hold this all in, because this product will move and we want to screw it in. Okay, and once we've got all of our screws, it's just as simple as taking a handful of these plugs, just set them into place. Now, the only downside to the smooth side is that these plugs aren't as invisible. When you're doing the cedar or the wood grain side, it's almost amazing how they disappear. And I'll do one just to show you guys. That way, if you end up doing this and you want to go that route, you can rest assured how good it's going to look. Other benefits to this product: it's moisture resistant. So over time, if you have condensation on a window in a shop where it gets freezing cold and you get some frost on a window, or I don't know, you have a window that's leaking, which is not good, this product is going to hold up like way longer than anything else around here, and it will continue to look good. If you don't want white, they're very easily painted and they hold paint color really well because they don't hold moisture. So moisture in wood is a bad thing when it comes to keeping a paint finish on. So that's another huge benefit to using this product. But here, let me go ahead, let me clean this up, let me hit all these in, and then we'll take a look at just how clean this jamb extension looks. Now that the plugs are in, we're just going to take our little scrap. Look at them suckers. Basically disappear. So that is the jamb extension, white PVC, super clean, easy to clean, easy to paint, and basically maintenance free. So now what we'll do is we'll move on to our J channel, and there is a little bit of a different process on the J channel compared to an outside window. And somewhat similar, but also a little bit different, and I'll show you that. Another thing, very important guys, if you're cutting this material, be very careful of these cut edges because they are super sharp. So ask me how I know. I've gotten cuts many times, so it's like a bad paper cut. Okay, so I told you guys I'd show you what it looks like when it goes into the grained side. So you do have different plugs, so you can either buy them as smooth or with the grain, and you can see definitely the difference between the plugs, right? Okay, here, check this out. Obviously, you're gonna line up your grain just to make sure that it's going in the same direction. And then we're gonna do the same thing. We're just gonna pound it in. Look at that. I know that you guys are seeing it. You know it's here. But when it's up on the wall or the window and you walk by, you are never gonna see that. Now, I'll also show you how easy it is to remove that if you have to. You're just gonna take another screw, put it in there, boom, pull it out. And when you remove the screw, you just take this little piece of foam off and pull that out. And let's say you had to still use this piece, you can throw a plug right back in there, even if you don't have a screw in there for some reason, or I don't know, you hit a nail. I've had that happen. I've had my screw go in and hit a nail, and now I've got a hole started. Well, you just go ahead and finish it, put a plug in, and then move on. So there you go. Now you can kind of see in case you want to do the wood grain. Okay, let's hope these all fit. The block really is the best way to go because it really makes sure it's super dense. So it really makes sure it's all good and level and flushes it out nice. All right, here's a little trick for you guys. So this frame must be just a little bit bigger. So when I put this screw in, it sucked up and gave me this crack. All you do is take your little fuzzy off, put it in reverse, boom. And that sucker tightens back up. And because of the reverse threading, it pulls the material and it's nice and tight. So nice little trick with these screws. If you get that crack, just hit it in reverse. All right, so now that the jam is here, it's time to do our J channel. First thing I'm gonna do is take my little Martinez Micro. Cool thing about this is you'll notice the shoe stops a 1/4 inch shy of this tip. So what I can do is I can come in here and I can mark. That's gonna give me a 1/4 inch reveal. And the reason I want this is when I do my trims, first thing I need to do is I need to measure. Well, this is pretty easy because I can just know I'm 34.5 and I need to add a 1/4 here and a 1/4 here to my side measurements. Now my bottom, I'm not even gonna measure that because I'm gonna do it in place and I'll show you what I mean. So let's go ahead, I'm gonna cut my 2 sides and I'll start my bottom cut, but we'll finish it over here back at the window. Okay, so I told you guys I was gonna show you what was a little bit different about the trim. First off, we're not putting our J channel up tight against something. We're actually gonna be putting it on the surface. That's why we did the 1/4 inch reveal. Now, the other thing is when I do the bottom on an outside window, I actually cut and notch this out, and then we wrap our side J around into it, but we're not gonna do that on these windows, and it all boils down to the finished look. And I think that this gives us a better finished look. So I'll show you what we're gonna do here. Instead of breaking this all the way off, I'm actually going to bend it up. So I need a little bit of a tab. So we're basically reversing my side trims and my bottom trim. So now that I have this, remember I didn't cut this to size, I can set it here. I can look right where my 1/4 inch reveal mark is. And then I can mark this. That way I'm not trying to, you know, pull a tape out, get all my measurements and then mark the piece. This is probably the easiest way. So I'm gonna give myself 15/16 line. Also, if anybody noticed, yeah, we put a piece of cardboard outside so that we could show you this. Otherwise it was too dark in here, too bright outside. So this is not the way this is gonna be. That's literally a piece of cardboard. It's a little bit of movie magic. Okay, so now that we have this, it's very simple. We're just gonna line up the bottom to my reveal line, the side to my reveal line. Okay. And then on our side J, we've actually cut this out entirely. Unlike outside, we fold that over, and that is because it does a better job. Oops, I gotta open this up. See, so we're not worried about water, it's just a visual thing. Come on, come on. There it is. So by bending this up, I get a cleaner line here, and you don't see into the trims. So that's really the reason that we do that. Otherwise, it's basically the same process. We're gonna do the sides, the bottom, and then we're gonna leave the top until we get our steel on. Come on, get in there. So now we've got our J on. All right, so we've got our steel coming up to this window, and I figured I'd just take 2 seconds to show you guys how I measure to cut the steel. So with metal, it's actually quite easy because if I stick my tape into the J channel, I'm just gonna read back to the good rib, which means the center of this last rib here. I don't actually measure to the edge, I measure to the center because everything is measured off of the center of the ridges. So with that being said, we're gonna call this 23 1/8. 23 1/8, okay? Now for the top and bottom, I'm just gonna sit right on there, and I don't wanna be tight, so I'm always gonna cut just a shy, maybe 1/8 off. So we're gonna go a straight 45. I always write down my measurements too, because when I walk over to the table to cut it, I'm inevitably gonna forget because I'm thinking about something else. So I can look over and see that. And then up here, this one's a little bit different. I'm 3/8 or so higher. And even though we're inside, I'm not worried about any water intrusion. So you'll see that when the J goes in. So I'm looking at 80 and we'll say above 80 3/4. And we did have this guy here, which is just a conduit for a box that's gonna get mounted later. So I do gotta cut that hole out too. All right, let's go cut the steel and we'll bring it over. Okay, so when I come over here and I'm looking to measure my 23 1/8, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm actually gonna take my tape measure and set it on the ribs, and all these ribs are 1 foot profile. So I don't actually even have to hold it here and then come over here and mark 23. What I can do is just put my tape 24 inches, because it's a 2 foot on center rib. I could put the 24 right there. That means there's my 23 1/8. Now, unfortunately, I'll say this, our inside is not necessarily mapped out the same as our outside windows because this is a 1 foot on center profile. Outside it's 9 inch on center. So we've actually got ribs going into our J channels. I don't recommend that ever on an exterior. On an interior where there's no water, no big deal. So you're just gonna make a nice clean cut and do your best. 23 1/8 was my measurement, and then we're gonna cut it 1.5 inches long. 24. This is what happens when you don't have your niblet sack on, but it broke, so I'm gonna have to just be careful and sweep it all up. All right, let's go ahead and throw this in. Should be a little bit tricky with this pipe, but hopefully not too bad. Usually not this tricky. Go on. There we go. Usually we don't have pipes sticking out like that, but. Now, my problem here is that I'm gonna have a rib right in this J, something you try not to do. But when that happens, I need 2 measurements. I need my high measurement, as you can see, I'm cut kind of up here, but then I also need to know exactly where my trim is, because that is what I need to cut my rib out. Just a little sidebar info here. And we're gonna go 80 3/4 again. And my width is 34 3/8. Just double check that, always good to double check. 34 3/8, okay. All right, so remember I said I had 2 different measurements because I was gonna be in the rib. That is right here, and it's a little bit awkward, but you know what? This is a great opportunity. I'm gonna show you guys a little trick, because people always ask, what happens on the outside when I have a window with a rib right next to it where my trim is gonna go into? I'll show you what we do, actually. It's a good time to do it. Greg's giving me like a, why would you share that? But
Can't give away all of our secrets. That's what makes us special, you know?
I'm gonna do it anyway, so you guys are lucky. Come on. Okay, get the bottom in. Okay, that can just stay there for a second. I always like to put a full one on after. There's no electrical in my way. Okay, so upper J channel trick. If you're outside and you have this going on, you don't want to cut into your J channel. I stopped mine just shy of it. And here's what I'm going to do. First, I need to get, okay, so I'm about 1 inch, so I'm gonna go another 1/2 inch. I'm gonna just take my piece of J. Get up there, buddy. And I'm just gonna put it into my channel, get a feel for where I wanna cut this. And then I already know I gotta go 1.5 inch bigger than this line. So let's see. Let me go ahead and cut this real quick, and then I'll show you the trick. It's probably not even that much of a trick, but people always ask, what do we do? And I guess this is what we do. All right, so I cut my J channel 1/2 inch longer than this notch. And all I'm going to do, because I want the look consistent, is I'm just gonna mark this right here, okay? That's my notch. I'm gonna square it down. And then we've got somewhat of like a little bell on our J. I don't know how big it's gonna be. I am assuming maybe something like that. And if I really wanted to, let's see. I think that's close enough. So with this, We're not letting the water run into the J. Obviously inside, we're not gonna let the water anywhere because it's not gonna be here. And I might not have done my cut exactly where I wanted it. I need to take that tip off just a little bit more. See if that did it. But we're getting the appearance that we want, but my J is still going over that piece. Now, normally I would have not cut this all the way to the rib, but being indoors, I wasn't worried. Go ahead, cut your steel out just enough. I still have the look consistently here, and the whole purpose of this is to get the water channeled out and over this steel. So there you go. Still get the good look. We got the rib. We don't have this ugly notch out, and I think it's a fine look. So there you go. Guys, that is how we do our windows on our interiors. Nothing super fancy. I do, however, think that the vinyl or PVC trim is a good add because the way we used to do it didn't look this good. It wasn't as durable, not as easy. And I think easy comes into cheaper because we can do it so quickly versus cutting a bunch of metal and trying to get it to lay flat and then caulking it and all that stuff. We don't have to do anything. This is good to go. So let me know what you guys think about this detail on the interior window. Thought it'd be good to have a video solely on this process. So people that are finishing out their post frames that someone else built them or whatever, there you go. If you enjoyed it, hit the thumbs up. And if you guys want more construction content, you can always hit that subscribe button. Pretty easy, doesn't cost you a thing, helps us out. And with that, I'm gonna go ahead and keep going with my project and we'll catch you guys on another video.